Hi everyone. Thank you for joining me for our Dao De Jing study. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. So last time, when in our last class, we started Dao De Jing chapter 15, and we finished about 2/3 of it. So today we're going to finish the rest. So in Dao De Jing 15, Lao Tzu has two questions for us readers. Hi Bob, thank you for joining me. So last week we ended at 浑兮其若浊. So Lao Tzu talk about, let's do a quick recap of what we went through last week. At the beginning of chapter 15, Lao Tzu talk about what do people who know Tao, who behave according to Tao, what are they like? And Lao Tzu says it's really hard to describe them. And what I can do is to just describe how they behave, what's like. So Lao Tzu use a lot of analogies in this chapter, and Lao Tzu talked about they're like big elephant trying to cross iced over river in the winter, and they're like this kind of monkey called Yu, who is very aware of neighbors, aware of their surroundings. And it's like what you feel like when you're a guest at somebody's house. It's also like ice when it's just about to melt. Also like uncarved this crude wood, and like a valley, and also are like, what they say, the last sentence we went through in last chapter is 浑兮其若浊. It means people who knows Tao don't mind when situations are muddy or can be like muddy water. Why? So Lao Tzu continued with two questions. The first one is 孰能濯以静之徐清? It means who can stay quiet or stay still so the muddy water can gradually become clear. So people who know Tao is not afraid when situations are muddy, because they know how to solve a situation. They know how to deal with a situation like that. And how to do it, here Lao Tzu gave us the answer. 濯以静之徐清. We can think like our mind, or you can say even broader, our energy field. It's like, for example, like this water, this muddy water. I have this, where's my chopsticks? My chopstick. Did I bring it? Oh, right here. This to some people might look familiar because I've used this analogy before. So, for example, let's pretend I put tea leaves in the water. So let's pretend these are the dust, the mud. And to be a muddy water, what do I have to do? I'm stirring it up. So this is like you almost can't see through the glasses now, right? With all the leaves, all the mud in there. And when I stop? 静止, when I stop, when I'm being still. And what happens? The water automatically, just naturally becomes clear. So these days we're just, we're just so used to doing this all the time. Imagine, our thoughts when one comes, and then one leads to another, and before we realize we're taken away. And not just that, it could be our attention. We're constantly this, and sometimes we feel like we have to put effort in. We have to do something to clear it. For example, we have to remember to do meditation, so to keep our mind quiet. I feel like almost like our default, our natural state is turning, and then we need to put effort in to be quiet. Here Lao Tzu is telling us that the clear water, the qing state, is our natural state. What we need to do is to stop doing things, and naturally, so this is our natural state. We're just so not used to this yet anymore. So Lao Tzu is telling us how to return to our natural state. And some people may says, yeah, I got it. I got what you mean, but but why do I want to become like a clear water? What is wrong with being muddy water? It's not like there is something wrong per se. However, we all want to become more wise. That's why we study Dao De Jing in the first place, right? We want to learn Lao Tzu's wisdom. We want to all become more insightful. We want to become better at making decisions or doing the right thing. Have we thought about that? To become more wise, what we need to be before that? Wise certainly is good. Everybody wants it. But how to get there? Wise is not something, it's like, okay, if we learn from Lao Tzu how to deal with this situation, and Lao Tzu gave us the instruction manual, you do step 1, 2, 3, 4. That's certainly good. However, if situation change and we still don't know what to do, so we need to figure out a way for us to become more knowing. How would I say that? To be like Lao Tzu, to have wisdom coming from ourselves, and to be able to do that, what I think is we need to become more perceptive first. I mean, for example, nothing just suddenly show up as big. Everything big has to start from somewhere. For example, something A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D, leads to Z. Some people may not be aware of it until it happens already at X, Y, and then it was already too late to do anything. And some people probably realize it around, let's say, H or G, and they're like, oh, this thing is happening, unavoidable, and then there's still, if you don't like the trend, there is still possibility to do something, to change it or to prevent it. Or if you like it, maybe you want to take advantage of it. And we'll see, oh, these people are more wise. And there are people who probably even when it happens at A, they realize it. So they are even more clear on how this whole process progress. So for those people, for us, we feel like, oh, they're very wise. They know the Tao. They know how life, how the world works. And to become so that means we need to become more and more aware, be perceptive of subtler and subtler things. When it comes to ourselves, to become more and more aware of when, like our subtler thoughts, subtler emotions, or sensations when it comes to our body. And for example, if I remember once somebody used the example I really liked, maybe Baron Katie, something like when you trying to stop a cart at the top of a hill. When it's just started to coming down the hill, you're at the top of the hill. All you need to do is to just give it a quick pull. Maybe you don't even have to work that hard, and then you stop the cart. However, if the cart has sliding down and is all the way at the bottom of the hill, you definitely don't want to be in front of it, because there's probably already too late. Chinese has a saying called 上医治未病. 上医 means the top doctors, the best doctors. 治 means treat. 未病 means before somebody becomes sick. When you first read this, it's like, what does that mean? If somebody is not sick, why are you treating them? What the sentence is trying to tell us is that, when we see a symptom, for example, when we had a fever or we're coughing with runny nose, these are symptoms. However, before we display these symptoms, before that happened, it means our body, maybe the coldness or dampness has come into our body, and our body has lost the yin-yang balance, or there's some blockage somewhere in our body. That happened before it manifests into a symptom. So the top doctors, they can see that, they realize this before it become a disease. So when it's at the beginning stage, it's much easier to treat, and it's also a less putting on a less impact on the patient's body. So just like the cart, we were talking about the example of the cart. This is what in Chinese traditional medicine believe, like the top doctors is good at be able to be aware, perceptive of the patient's situation. And when it comes to ourselves, I think we can all benefit becoming, at least we may not be a doctor, but it would be good for us to becoming more and more aware of our own body, our own thoughts, our own emotions. Then, we're much easier to treat it, to deal with it. I talk about emotions. We were talking about body symptom, and then I just said about emotions. Emotions the same way. Psychologists have found out that a lot of people who has anger issues, that the anger emotion is actually a more of a derived emotion. Once they study digging more and more into the patient's feelings, they found out that anger happened after what actually that's buried deeper, one layer down, is sadness. For a lot of people, dealing with sadness is harder than dealing with anger, and they feel like sadness makes them feel very powerless. So when sadness happens, they will immediately turn into anger to the level that they realize they're angry, but they have covered up. They don't even realize that they were sad before that. And the psychologist found out that once the patients realize what's under the anger, even just that fact of realizing the sadness and what caused the sadness, their anger issues just got immediately much better. So these are all examples talking about the benefit of being more perceptive, more aware. Then it's very easy, we can all come to the conclusion whether is it easier to be aware, to become more aware, more perceptive when you are a clear water. When you're clear water like this, even a little stir, you can probably already notice a ripple. However, if this is our natural state, we might have to wait until tsunami comes before we realize, oh, something's happening, right? So Lao Tzu, through question, is asking us, can you do this? Can you stay quiet enough to let your mind become clear? Next question. Lao Tzu asked, 孰能安宜久动之徐生? Can you be still, be quiet long enough? 久 is long enough. So 动 is movement. So movement can slowly start, can happen. Some people probably quickly make the connection, saying, okay, last question, Lao Tzu is asking us to be quiet, so things be still. Now this question, Lao Tzu asks us to be quiet enough so movement happens again. So people are like, what? There seems to be a little, what's going on here? Movement are not created equal. What I mean is, this movement is different from the previous, our stirring our mind movement. Why? Because think about Lao Tzu is telling us, where does this movement come from? This movement is coming from peace, from quiet, from still. I think a lot of you are familiar with the yin and yang theory. It's a very important theory in Chinese philosophy, in Chinese medicine. So yin and yang, oftentimes people will see the quietness, people consider it as yin, have the yin characteristic, and quiet, more dense, more accumulating. And then yang movement is considered yang. Yang is this more active and going out, spread out. And because these kind of description, a lot of people see yin and yang as opposite of each other. It seems like, quiet and move, not moving and moving, they're opposite each other, which is true, they are. However, the yin and yang theory are much more complex than just two things are opposite. And the yin and yang are also interdependent. They have this, both can supporting each other and can keep each other balanced. They can be intertransforming. What I mean by that? There's a saying, 静即生动，动即生静, which means when it's extreme quiet and movement occurs from that. When extreme movement, quietness occur from that. For example, so this is a Tai Chi. You could see this is, people call this Tai Chi. So black usually considers yin, represents yin, and white one represents yang. So you see when the yang starts is when the yin is very big, very strong. And that's when this little bit of yang starts and it gets stronger, stronger, stronger. Where does the yin starts? When the yang is very strong. So this way it just continues, in and out and out. So after that description, you probably start to understand. So why Lao Tzu is saying, can you stay quiet long enough? Or we can say, can you go deeper and deeper into quietness? And when that happens, movement starts to occur. And this kind of movement, Chinese call it 内动. It means movements from inside. It's different from when we're controlling our movement, we're controlling with our mind. And a lot of people, if you meditate or if you do 站桩is like standing meditation. For example, Dr. Wu's 凤阳太极桩is a very good 站桩 method. And you can, if you're interested, you can find it on YouTube. A lot of people, when they practice these methods, and some people will become like they'll burp a lot, or some people will fart a lot. These actually are very good, let's say, phenomena, because this is telling us that our internal organs are gaining energy. So they have enough energy now, they're stronger at their function. So they're getting rid of our body's waste. So it's good for our body. And for some people, that they maybe suddenly when they're meditating, they feel like their arms or their legs are starting to moving in a way that they would think that like, why it's definitely not, they feel like they're not controlling it. That's when our body is moving to wherever different people they experience different things because their situation is different. So wherever your body needs some healing or needs to clear the blockage or needs stretch, needs to relax, that's when you will notice the movement. So these are generally all good phenomena. That just means our body are healing, are becoming stronger. So last sentence in chapter 15 is 保此道者不欲盈夫唯不盈故能避而不成 It means people who 保此道者 means people who continuously practice this way. What way? It's the way that Lao Tzu talk about in chapter 15. Before, when it comes to this part, what people talk about how people who knows Tao, how they behave. So what do they do? Here, Lao Tzu says, people who continually practice this way don't want to be yin. Yin means full, or sometimes means, for example, you have a full glass of water, that means yin, or sometimes it was too full, it actually has like overflow. So those are the two meanings of yin, but you know what it means, it's very full. And 故能夫唯不盈，故能避而不成. Here, Lao Tzu is saying, because the people who practice this way don't want to be full, don't want fullness. That so it can allow changes to happen. I mean, if a glass of water is already full, there is nothing much you can't add any more in it, or if you want to change, if you want to add something different in it. But it pretty much, that's it. It's like it's done. It's complete. Here is telling us, saying like, the people who knows Tao never gets to this totally complete stage. This way, it always allows changes to happen. That also means that means the people like that are not rigid about their own ways. So they're open for change. They're open for doing things a different way, which also means they need to stay in the present. Just like the elephant. Think about the elephant going over an iced over river, right? Elephant never put their foot down completely. So every time they're always ready for change, almost like they're ready for the next second. If they hear a crack, they're ready to pull their foot up. So they're never 100% settled on something. So they're always ready for changes to happen. Well, if you remember in one of our previous classes, I show you a hexagram of 乾卦. That's I Ching's first hexagram. It's 6 lines from bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I actually printed out, but I don't remember where I put it. But I remember we were talking about the best position. Even the emperor think about they want to be on the 5th line, the 5th line top. They don't like to be on the top line because the top line is not considered the best. So it's I think here Lao Tzu is trying to tell us the same. So this is chapter 15. Thank you everyone for joining me. Next week, we'll continue on to chapter 16. Thank you everybody. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you next week. Take care.